Hello everyone, today is 12th of March, now it's 10:30 in the morning Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my first update for the day in which I will share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. There are quite a few very significant developments and news that I like to share with you for this moment, and I will start with the developments that took place on the border between Russia and Ukraine in Kharkov region. According to several military channels, early hours of today, this morning, Ukrainian unit with several armored vehicles, 3 armored vehicles, and the manpower entered, crossed the border, attempted crossing border between Russia and Ukraine, and to move towards Graivoron settlement. And this group was tracked by Russian side and destroyed. All 3 vehicles were destroyed that they have, and whoever survived from that group tried to retreat towards Kharkov region. During the day probably we will receive some additional information, but information is quite interesting because a few days ago I reported about destruction of another larger Ukrainian group that was also planning to cross the border and move towards Graivoron settlement, and that other group was armed with some 5 tanks, according to several military channels, long-range self-prepared artillery systems and infantry fighting vehicles, mortars and so on. As a result of Russian airstrikes against that group, drone strikes, missile strikes, Kiev regime suffered some 70 casualties. Kiev regime forces suffered some 70 casualties, and well, this group was basically destroyed. But many experts were saying on internet that it is possible that Kiev regime will still try to conduct sabotage operation deep inside Russian territory in upcoming days because of the presidential elections, especially now because of the upcoming presidential elections here in Russia. And well, this morning we received information about attempt to cross a border by this another group, smaller group, which was destroyed. Maybe there will be some another attempts also from Kiev regime, Kiev's so-called secret services, in reality terrorist organizations, to conduct some terrorist attacks on Russian territory in upcoming days. Russian security services, I believe, are locked in on this topic and are monitoring situation to make sure that border is secure and Russian citizens are safe and secure in every region, not just in ones that are bordering Ukraine. When it comes to situation on the line of contact, media did not report about any crucial changes. It's a local scale skirmishes, artillery duels between the sides, drone wars, daily routine, one may say. I will just note that Russian armed forces, according to reports, had some significant local scale progress in direction of Georgievka, which is west side of Marinka on Donetsk sector of the front line, and also Russian forces had significant progress in Pervomayskaya area. Some unexpected, seems like for Ukrainian side, counteroffensive or local scale offensive was conducted by armored groups of Russian forces from the northern side of this village, and right now Ukrainian garrison in this settlement are most likely cut in 2 halves, and one that is in the eastern part of this settlement, eastern and central part of this settlement, may end up in encirclement if they will not withdraw from their positions. Let's see how the situation develop. And also, by the way, yesterday several military channels reported about Russian progress in Rabotina area, which is Orekhov bridgehead, of course, on Zaporozhye sector of the front line. Even some videos are circulating on internet which depicts Russian armored assault on the central parts of Rabotina. And if in previous days We knew that northern part of Rabotina was controlled by Ukrainian forces, southern part by Russian forces, and central areas were in a gray zone. Several military channels are suggesting now that Russian forces re-established control over the central parts and are continuing to push northwards. Of course, we need some more photo and video confirmation of this information, but it is possible that Russian forces restarted their offensive towards Rabotina, and if that's the case, then in upcoming days, most likely this settlement will become under full Russian control. And well, this is it when it comes to short summary of the situation on Ukrainian battlefield. Of course, if you are interested in more detailed analysis of these local scale skirmishes between the sides, local scale clashes, I recommend military channels. They are providing great volume of information, detailed information on daily basis about situation on the line of contact. I will continue with some other news. And well, during the previous night, Ukrainian forces, Kiev regime, conducted yet another quite a large scale drone strike against Russia. Some 25 drones, Ukrainian drones, were intercepted in several Russian regions. To be more precise, two Ukrainian drones were intercepted in Moscow region, one Ukrainian drone was intercepted in Leningrad region, 7 drones in Belgorod region, 11 drones in Kursk region, 1 drone in Bryansk region, 1 drone in Tula region, and 2 drones in Oryol region of the Russian Federation. As we can see, and this is kind of pattern nowadays, because Kiev regime is unable to achieve any success on the battlefield, they are more often shifting their attentions towards these long-range strikes, towards drone attacks, missile attacks, to hurt as many Russians as possible and to conduct attacks deep inside Russian territory. Usually Russian air defense systems are neutralizing if not 100%, then a vast majority of drones. And same happened previous night, but unfortunately it's only Kiev regime that always shut down 100% of aerial targets. In reality, in real life, this is not possible. Even best air defense systems like Russia has and like Israel has are unable to constantly neutralize all the aerial targets 100%. It's just hardly ever possible. And therefore we have this report here that Ukrainian drones strike several Russian oil facilities during the previous night or early hours of this morning. RT and many other media outlets are reporting about it here in Russia. So Russian military has intercepted at least 25 hostile targets over the 7 regions overnight. This is a drone strike that I just spoke about. But at least one Ukrainian drone crashed into an oil facility in the western city of Oryol early Tuesday morning. Several more Ukrainian drones targeted a refinery on the outskirts of Nizhny Novgorod. The attack in Oryol targeted a fuel and energy complex facility in the city around 350 kilometers south of Moscow. Governor Andrei Klitschkov, governor of the region, Andrei Klitschkov, announced in a statement at 3:30 a.m. local time. There were no casualties or injuries on the ground, according to officials. So unfortunately, several drones managed to go through Russian air defense systems and targeted energy facilities. No casualties reported, which is of course main thing. TASS news agencies report that there were also another attempt of Kiev regime to strike Russian territory, not just with drones but also with the missiles. And over the Belgorod region, one .U tactical missile was destroyed by Russian air defense systems, and also 8 missiles from MLRS Vampire. So it was kind of combined air assault on Russian territory with the drones and the missiles, and majority of aerial targets were destroyed by Russian air defense systems. But unfortunately, several drones managed to deal some damage to these energy facilities. But anyway, let's continue. RT is reporting about yesterday's statements, quite interesting statements of head of NATO Stoltenberg. So NATO must continue to support Kiev so it can negotiate with Moscow about becoming an independent state. The US-led bloc Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said on Monday, speaking at the ceremony to admit Sweden into NATO. Stoltenberg repeated the bloc's talking points about supporting Ukraine in the conflict with Russia, but chose to frame their very hypothetical peace talks in terms of independence and sovereignty of Ukraine. We must continue to strengthen Ukraine to show Russian President Vladimir Putin that he will not get what he wants on the battlefield, but must sit down and negotiate a solution where Ukraine is recognized and prevails as a sovereign and independent nation, Stoltenberg said. Quite a change in tune, isn't it? Quite a change in tune. I didn't remember any other time when Stoltenberg was talking about in these terms that Ukraine should remain should maintain statehood and sovereignty. Well, something is changing in the West among Western elites. The approach might change also, and when it comes to Ukraine's statehood, well, Medvedev, former Russian president and current deputy chairman of Security Council, can comment on this topic, and he may use this map, for example, that was on the background during that marathon of the Knowledge Society here in Russia, when Medvedev was giving a speech, and this map was used during Medvedev's speech, in which you can clearly see that vast majority of modern Ukraine is under Russian control. Western regions of Ukraine are under control of NATO. To be more precise, Poland, Hungary, and Romania. And Ukraine on this map is depicted as only small landlocked quasi-state, with Kiev being capital and Kiev region being the rest of the Ukraine. So, well, maybe Stoltenberg is referring to this map that Medvedev used recently. I don't know. I'm being somewhat ironic, of course, but it is possible, by the way, that after this conflict will end, that's how political map of this area gonna look. It is highly likely, I will say. Although I'm still my reading of big picture still is that most likely after this conflict will end, Ukraine will be completely divided between its neighbors. Vast majority will be controlled by Russian Federation, including Kiev and surrounding areas, and the Western Ukraine will be controlled by NATO and the NATO member states, namely Poland, Hungary, and Romania. They will probably claim territories that used to be part of these countries sometime in the past. But well, there is a slight chance. I believe I was giving it like 1%, maybe a little more now. Once after Medvedev used this map during his speech, there is a slight chance that Kiev and surrounding areas may remain as a landlocked quasi-state. Who knows? But whatever the case, Medvedev definitely can answer to Stoltenberg, and maybe we will see from him answer today. He is usually quite active on social media, so let's see. RIA Novosti is reporting about quite interesting developments inside the Ukraine's militaries and secret services. So RIA Novosti obtained information from Russian security services, which managed to hack conversations of platforms that are used by Ukrainian officers to communicate between each other. And according to RIA Novosti's information, commanders of special forces of Ukrainian army, influential commanders, Also, commanders of military intelligence of Ukraine, SBU even, by the way, which is a secret service, of course, of Kiev regime, and also commanders of neo-Nazi formations, including Azov, are discussing between each other forceful removal of Zelensky from office. And according to RIA Novosti's information, main reason why these commanders are not happy with Zelensky is that they are disagree with the changes in the leadership of Russia, in the leadership of Ukraine's military. To be more precise, they are not happy with the removal of Zaluzhny from general staff and appointment of Syrsky as his replacement. And well, of course, we can take this information with a pinch of salt, but we all know that there is open conflict between Zelensky's and Zaluzhny's camp in Ukraine. I believe Zaluzhny was appointed as ambassador to United Kingdom by London's demand, because Zaluzhny's security, because Zaluzhny has close ties with UK's military, UK's secret services. Zaluzhny is the asset, basically, of UK, and of course they want him to be in the United Kingdom to make sure that he is better protected from possible assassination attempts from Zelensky's camp. And one should always keep in mind that until Zaluzhny was head of general staff, for example, 3rd Assault Brigade of Ukraine or Zelensky's regime was kept as a strategic reserve. And this 3rd Assault Brigade is a neo-Nazi unit, by the way. It's Azov. It's Azov formation. But once Zaluzhny was removed from general staff, this 3rd Brigade, 3rd Assault Brigade, was directed towards Avdiivka and was crushed. They had huge casualties there during Russian offensive operation. And of course, it's quite understandable that commanders of those neo-Nazi formations are not happy with the situation and want Zelensky to be removed from office. And it will happen, by the way. It will happen one way or another. There is only two possible scenarios at this point, I guess. One is that London and Washington will force Zelensky to conduct presidential elections in which Zaluzhny will receive majority votes. He's, according to latest poll numbers, latest social studies in Ukraine, Zaluzhny has like twice more support than Zelensky does. And that's one way how Zelensky may be removed, replaced through presidential elections, right? I mean, in next several months before end of this year. Or there is another option. If Zelensky and his associates will refuse to conduct presidential elections and will try to prolong this martial law time after time, and this martial law can be prolonged only 3 months at a time, only for 3 months at a time, then maybe military coup will take place in Ukraine. Zelensky will be removed from office. Presidential elections will be appointed, and Zaluzhny will become a leader of Kiev regime that way. So I see these two possible scenarios. In both cases, this information seems highly likely that there are some discussions in Ukrainian militaries to remove Zelensky, because those militaries also are controlled, by the way, by Washington and London. Those militaries also are controlled by Western secret services, and they will use them any way they want. And this information may only confirms how fragile Zelensky's situation is. He is just a puppet, and if he will try to play his own game, he's done straight away. But anyway, let's continue. Also, Ukraine and Georgia, by the way. RIA Novosti is reporting that one of the close associates of Zelensky and leader of ruling party in Ukraine, servant of people, David Arachamia made statements about Georgia and said that to improve relationships between Ukraine and Georgia, Tbilisi must release mass murderer and war criminal Mikhail Saakashvili, former president of Georgia. Also, David Arachamia demanded from Tbilisi direct flights to be cut between Georgia and Russia, and he also demanded from Tbilisi to impose sanctions on Russia. I don't know what substances these people are using in Kiev, including David Arachamia, who is ethnically Georgian, by the way. But of course, Tbilisi would not take seriously not just statements of Arachamia, but statements of anybody from Ukraine. Georgian current government of Georgia was quite clear in statements that Kiev regime tried many times to destabilize Georgia. Kiev regime was directly involved in attempts to destabilize Georgia and then to use Georgia as a kind of second front against Russia. So I believe Tbilisi will continue to be cautious when it comes to Ukraine. Activity of Ukrainian citizens inside Georgia, because it is highly likely that Kiev regime may once again try to destabilize Georgia, even send some mercenaries into Georgia, conduct some support Washington in conducting some regime change in the country. And Washington, by the way, has assets in Georgia also, of course, plenty of them. Entire so-called opposition, almost in its entirety, is asset of CIA and are under control of U.S. Embassy in Georgia. And because of these threats that coming in from Washington against Georgia, from Ukraine, from Brussels, of course, Georgia's government have to be extremely cautious, and Georgia's security services have to be extremely cautious, because Georgia is on the line. Georgia is on the line, and there are forces in this world that want to use Georgia as a second front against Russia, which will be devastating for Georgia, by the way. Absolutely devastating. And one should mention that current ruling party and current government of Georgia is definitely doing, as I understand, best they can to maintain stability in Georgia and to make sure that citizens of Georgia and country itself is safe and not becoming a pawn in a geopolitical game of the Washington and London. Anyway, let's continue. RT is reporting, and let me check how long is this update. 23 minutes. Okay. RT is reporting that Russia, China, and Iran launched joint naval exercises. So Russian, Chinese, and Iranian Navy ships are holding joint exercises in Arabian Sea this week, staging from the port of Chash Bahar in the Gulf of Oman. The war games maritime security belt are scheduled to run from March 12 to March 15 and involve vessels and aircraft from 3 countries. Envoys from the militaries of Azerbaijan, India, Kazakhstan, Oman, Pakistan, and South Africa are in attendance as observers. So yes, quite interesting. I said many times before that it's only Western ruling elites that want destabilization of the Middle East and some regional war in that area. Rest of the world has exactly the opposite interest, which is stability in the region, in the Middle East. And these exercises, joint exercises of Russia, China, and Iran Navy and militaries, definitely confirmation of my reading of big picture, one may say this way, and a message, also a message, by the way, to the Western ruling elites that Beijing, Moscow, and Tehran will do whatever it takes not to allow Western ruling elites to destabilize this region. So it's a good development, by the way, undoubtedly. It would be good if India's Navy would also participate. It would be even better, of course, but maybe sometime in the future. Artists report that, well, Britain's flagship aircraft carrier catches fire and route for repairs. This information is like a few days old, but I wanted to share with you in case you did not read it. So Britain's HMS Queen Elizabeth, which is one may say brand new aircraft carrier, by the way. There is two this type of aircraft carriers in British Navy right now. One is Queen Elizabeth, the other one is Prince of Wales, I believe. So Britain's HMS Queen Elizabeth has caught fire while docked in Scotland to unload munition. Prior to having propeller shaft repaired, the propeller issue has caused the 3 billion pound warship to miss NATO's largest exercises in decades last month. And I remind you, dear friends, that because this aircraft carrier, Queen Elizabeth, was not able to participate in these NATO exercises that still continues, by the way, in the Eastern Europe. This is largest NATO exercises since the Cold War. British Navy made decision to send another aircraft carrier, copy of this one, Prince of Wales. And according to some reports that I see, that another carrier also suffered some technical issues. So yes, something is, I mean, British Navy is definitely not in the best shape and experiencing some severe difficulties for whatever reason, but that's factual. I don't think anybody will argue with me that Royal Navy is in deep trouble and not really capable force, only on paper maybe. But anyway, blaze broke out while the carrier was docked at Glemallan on Friday night. Royal Navy spokesman said on Saturday a minor isolated fire on HMS Queen Elizabeth was quickly brought under control and extinguished. The spokesman told the UK Defence Journal. Okay, it's good that no one was harmed, by the way. That's the main thing. The rest of it, man, you know. And if you remember, British media, Western media in general was so ironic about Russian aircraft carrier Admiral Kuznetsov, which is, by the way, like so many decades old. And are they laughing now? Are they ironic now when brand new British aircraft carriers are not really able to participate even in the military exercises? Nothing to be said about real battle. Anyway, let's continue. Also, RT report that Moscow responds to Chinese initiative on nuclear weapons. So proposals regarding international security should be considered in the context of global realities, Moscow has said, after China called for the world's largest nuclear powers to negotiate a new treaty. The Russian foreign, and according to Chinese initiative, by the way, nuclear powers should sign agreement that they will not use nukes first. And when this information become available for public, I said very same day that while commenting on it, that this initiative would not go down well with Moscow because Russia is against Russia. A proxy war have been waged by NATO, by Western ruling class, and because of the constant escalation from the collective West against Russia, Moscow at any moment may find itself in a situation when there is no any other option but to use some extreme force, which includes nuclear force also, and therefore I didn't see it's realistic that Moscow will agree not to use nukes first. And well, basically, Russian Foreign Ministry said exactly the same, but diplomatically, much more diplomatically, because I read the statement of Foreign Ministry as a no to this initiative of Beijing. But anyway, The Russian Foreign Ministry told Business Daily RBK that Moscow and Beijing treat each other's initiatives with special attention and deep respect, adding that both nations were determined to further progress bilateral relationships. It said that China's proposal needed to be considered in light of military and political realities, along with other factors concerning international security and strategic stability. It referred specifically to deterioration in relations between the nuclear powers, Britain, France, US, China, and Russia. So basically, foreign ministry, diplomatically, Russian foreign ministry, diplomatically, but say no for this initiative now because of this complexity of the situation, really. Any other time, Moscow may agree on this, but if relationships between Russia and the NATO member states were at least on a working stage, but right now when collective West on daily basis escalates with Russia, of course Moscow cannot sign up for paper and cannot say that, you know what, we will not use nukes, whatever the case. No, of course Moscow will use nukes if Russia's statehood is in danger and Russian citizens are in danger, Russian society. That's why those nukes are in the arsenals, I believe. And that's a Russian military doctrine also. So RIA Novosti's report that, well, Russian Foreign Ministry also paid attention to recent statements from UK's Defense Ministry, by the way, and let me translate this. So Russian Foreign Ministry told RIA Novosti news agency that they pay attention to the statements of British Deputy Defense Minister James Heappey, who indicated his readiness to support Armenia in the face of threats emanating from Russia. We are no longer surprised. By the way, threats from Russia to Armenia, formulation of the sentence. These people in the Western states probably cannot construct sentence now without mentioning Russia and threats from Russia, no matter about which country they are talking about and what topic. In this particular case, I mean, what threats from Russia to Armenia, what you are talking about. But this statement from a high-ranking military official of UK definitely highlights intentions of the Western ruling class to use Armenia as a pawn in their geopolitical game, including against Russia, by the way. It's just obvious. So Foreign Ministry reacted on it, of course, and some quote here: "We are no longer surprised by the fact that London has stopped hiding the anti-Russian essence of all its steps in the post-Soviet space, including in the Southern Caucasus." But the Heappey, this official, James Heappey, Deputy Defense Minister, but Heappey revelations are also direct confirmation that the West is seeking to turn Armenia into an instrument of its ongoing region of the line directed against Moscow, ongoing regional geopolitical line directed against Moscow. The diplomatic department noted that this situation is a reason for reflection for the responsible politicians in Yerevan. Yerevan is capital of Armenia, of course, and yes, I mean, who will disagree with Russia's foreign ministry? This type of statement from London definitely is indicator that Western ruling class has intention to use Armenia against Russia, use Armenia as a pawn in geopolitical game, and it's not just responsible politicians in Armenia, but also society of Armenia have to think about it. They have to do it before it's not too late. Because, I mean, they have prime example what is happening with the country when society and politicians are acting irresponsible. Ukraine, by the way. prime example. Ukrainian society, Ukrainian politicians allow Western ruling class to use Ukraine as a pawn in geopolitical games of the West, and it did not end well for citizens of Ukraine, did it? Anyway, let's continue, and this is gonna be last news for today's update. So Russia bans UK fleet from vital fishing grounds. The UK's fishing fleet has been denied access to Russia's resource-rich fishing grounds after Russian President Vladimir Putin signed the law that ends the long-standing agreement allowing British vessels operate in the Barents Sea. The document was published on Russia's official website for legal information on Monday. The so-called fisheries agreement signed by the USSR and the UK and the Northern Ireland in 1956, which allowed British ships to operate in the rich fishing grounds along the coast of Russia's Kola Peninsula and east of Cape Keninos, has been terminated. The Barents Sea is widely known to be one of the world's most important fishing grounds for cod and haddock. These two fishes are used mainly used in world famous British meal, fish and chips. According to Daily Mail, citing UK fisheries data, Britain sourced more than 560,000 tons of fish from the Barents Sea last year alone. So this is, of course, a forceful step. I mean, Moscow is forced basically to take this kind of steps against London because of the anti-Russian sanctions from UK, anti-Russian policies and steps that British leadership is conducting. Unfortunate, of course, because first of all, this deterioration of the relationships between the countries are hurting ordinary people, small businesses, but well, what Moscow can do about it? It's not Moscow that started this sanctions war and this Cold War between the sides, isn't it? It's a Western ruling elites, including British elites, and I guess British fishermen and British society that will have to pay now, I guess, more for the fish and chips. They should ask questions. I mean, are London's policies really that great? Or maybe some changes are needed because it's UK citizens that are under pressure more and more, not just because of this particular situation with the Barents Sea, but in general. So, I mean, I don't know, maybe it's time Western societies to start asking questions, to stop being just observer and start asking questions and demanding answers. Maybe, I don't know. And this is it for now, dear friends. Hopefully you will find this update informative, interesting, useful, and if so, please consider to click that like button and leave some commentary just about anything, any topic. More likes and comments probably will help me to deal with the algorithms on both platforms, YouTube and Rumble, and to reach wider audience. And for very same reason, if you can, please share links to my videos or my channels with your friends on any of the platforms that you are actively using. And finally, if you think my channel, my small media project is interesting, useful, deserves to exist in this field of news and political commentary, please consider to support my work with small donations through PayPal, buy me coffee, or by subscribing to my Patreon page. You can see all the links in the description box and in the pinned comment. This is it for now. Have a great day and take care.